Hi, I'm Sherry Henley, founder of Business Over Coffee International. You are watching Business Over Coffee, and we are so happy to be here with you today, along with the guest and the panelist on the show. We are going to be talking today about bridging the gap from success to influence. So stay right where you are. We have a lot of ground to cover. First, I would like to introduce Nita Black, mapmomentum.com.
Good morning.
Good morning. Shelley Baur, integritybased-communications.com.
Yes, ma'am.
And Virginia Rowland, right here where we are actually taping Business Over Coffee at ridgewaybusinesscenter.com.
Good morning.
Thank you, Virginia, for being with us, Nita and Shelley. Let's move right into the subject of bridging the gap from success to influence. And first, I would like to talk about how this particular topic came to the table. And I was online one day blogging, as well, we have a professional blogger right here beside me, so I throw that ball to you, Shelley. But I was making an attempt at blogging, and I read LinkedIn and how they were bringing on their influencers. This is about a week ago. Now we're in October 2012, so this was toward the beginning of this month that I read this. And it was very interesting to me. The influencers were President Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, Craigslist, the founder of Craigslist, and so forth. And so I began to think of how do we become an influencer once we become successful. There is a difference. There is a bridge that crosses and bridges the gap. So Nita, I know you did some research on that. So let's start with you.
I know my participation in other events, particularly here in Memphis, some of the influencers locally to help us get people to our events, for instance, would be Mayor Luttrell or Mayor Wharton. Folks who have made a difference in our community. And so I guess as each of us individually try to make a difference in whatever community we're networking in, that would be something that would be important to me.
Sure. And people hear your name and they associate that with community involvement because you have been the president with NABO, National Association of Women in Business, and you've had a lot of interaction in the city. How would you say you managed to bridge that gap from being successful to people actually looking at you as an influencer? I know I came to you looking at you as an influencer within our community.
I would say for me personally, I guess it happened and it really wasn't a goal. It wasn't a personal goal. So if, like for instance, last night I was talking with a lady and she said, I attended your business plan workshop several years ago and this is the conversation that I heard and that was a turning point in my life. And that was the first I had heard of that. So for me to influence people from a professional standpoint is very important. And I guess the difficulty sometimes for me is that I don't hear about it. I don't really know that that is a positive influence or even a negative. Hopefully I'm not too often a negative influence on someone.
Well, I truly believe that the influence that we have also comes from the people that we align ourselves with. And Shelley, you and I have aligned ourselves with one another, and I look to you as a highly respected person, author of Integrity-Based Communications. You have a pen in there. I do. Excellent book, integritycommunications.com. And the reason why I had such respect for Nita was two things. Number one, the alignment with NABO and the alignment with you. And because I highly respected you and knew you as a person of integrity, and you recommended Nita, then I immediately trusted Nita. So that's very important to know that as professionals, as we are working within our communities, that anyone we refer are people, they think like that. So Shelley, elaborate on this for us.
Well, I think for me, I consider one of my roles in life is to be a connector. And so that was a good example of that. It's like people we know, like, and trust, we want to bring together. And of course, that's your whole theme, is bringing
everyone
people together. Exactly. And I think moving, you know, it's kind of putting us on the spot to talk about how did you move from success to significance, or influence. But I think it's looking up to people and emulating them, modeling them.
Yes.
Lord knows, Nita saw me be thrust into the limelight as the second president of NABO, and so it was someone who saw in me, you know, she really pushed me, you know, kicking and screaming. So
Nita was a mentor to you
No,
at
not
one
Nita.
point in your life.
Well, actually, I would say we've been peer
Okay.
colleagues, but it was Elaine Sanford who was the original founding member of NABO who kind of pulled me in. And it's when people believe in you and start to see you as an influencer and you don't even see yourself that way. And I think that's what you were saying too,
Absolutely,
Nita.
I think so.
When I look at the community, you know, I think about Ruby Bright with the Women's Foundation. I think of Regina Walker with the United Way. I mean, there are just women that we can look up to and go, wow, I don't have that quality. I'm going to ask her to mentor me in that particular area.
Absolutely.
So I think we have done, half of my life has been living by accident and default before I got on purpose. And so it wasn't necessarily a strategy or a goal, but once it started happening, then you want to turn around and go, whoa, I can save somebody some time if I help them learn what I learned over a longer period of time.
And I believe, Virginia, that it comes down to also the foundation of what we do, our value system. And I believe that all the panelists right here, that we share a lot of the same value systems. And so aligning ourselves with people who are in integrity, and you can explain that word for us here in a minute. And I believe that people of integrity are usually the influencers. Sometimes not so much, but we try to at least steer our children toward the people with integrity that are influencers. Tell us how you came to know Shelley Baur, Nita Black, and how they have influenced your life as a professional.
How they influenced me. Well, that's right. Nita, I'd seen your emails or for the NABO meetings, and then next thing I know, here you are introducing me to her, and I couldn't wait to meet you. That was true. And we had a great conversation that day. It's one of those things you just click with some people. Now, Shelley I've known from church, known her for years.
Right.
And was just thrilled when she came to the first Business Over Coffee meeting up here, and I was like, oh, somebody I know.
Right.
But one thing that really influenced me about Shelley was when she offered some advice to me. I had to speak in front of a large crowd. I was very nervous about it. I'd never done this before. And knowing Shelley had some experience in that, knowing she was someone I could trust.
Sure.
She happened to be up here that day for a Business Over Coffee meeting, and I ran to her and I asked her some advice, and she gave me some quick advice what to do before I got up and spoke. I did that when I went there. I survived. It turned out very well.
You're here to tell us about it.
I'm here to talk about it, and I thank Shelley for that, that you got me through that experience.
Yes, and I heard you say something about trusting Shelley. And Shelley, I've heard you say before, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. So everyone here at this table, we know, like, and trust. But how did that come about? Where did that happen in the evolution of our professional life?
Well, I live a pretty seamless life, although I don't take business to church, but but pretty much I live a seamless life, and so someone I meet, at a business over coffee meeting may be somebody I do or do not do business with, but if I am paying attention to what they're doing, if I'm listening deeply, if I know what their drivers are, what their needs are, what they're looking for,
Break that down. What's a driver?
what motivates people.
Okay.
So in other words, I'm not gaining information so that I can manipulate them to get them to do something. I'm genuinely curious about them, what they do, what they're passionate about. And I have to admit that over the years, I've gone from promotion to really being interested in other people and helping promote them. So even though we may never do business together, I know now about Rising Fire. And so when someone's looking for a completely professional production crew,
company. Yes.
there you go, risingfire.com, F-Y-R-E. So, you know, it's just, of course I'm over 40 now, so the Rolodex up here doesn't work as well, but, you know, to go, oh, let me call Sherry Henley. She knows how to get in touch with the people from Rising Fire. So that's really where I am now. It's, I trust you, I trust them for their competency. When someone's looking, I go bing, 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 bing. You know, I have somebody else in my Rolodex that I can put in that category.
Yes. So that's how influence happens, is through the connections that we have that we trust. That's what I'm hearing, Nita, is by Carolyn Bendel, who will be featured on one of our Business Over Coffee shows. She is the person that put us in touch with Rising Fire Productions. So that's a great example of how we trust them because we trust Carolyn. And I think that's how influence happens. That's what I'm hearing. What are you hearing?
I think we influence each other just by who we are and how we act. And I'll give an example, and we never really know who's going to pick up on what, like the emails that have been coming through NABO that you kind of picked up on my name and associated my profession with.
Picked up on your name, and then here you are right in front of me.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And I'll give you another example. I had changed my profile on Facebook recently this week, and it said married. It had like 10 or 12 options on there. Single, married. One of them was complicated. And I thought that was, I thought, well, shoot, I'm going to check that.
That's funny. No one would think of you as complicated,
I know,
Nita.
but well, it was talking about your relationship with your
yes.
significant other or with your spouse. And so I checked complicated. I mean, my daughter immediately calls me and says, "What's up with this, Mom?" And I'm
too.
thinking,
My mother
oh my
checks
gosh, you know, how many people picked up on that, but they didn't really read something that I felt like was important that I wanted to share with somebody. So I think influencing people, whatever we do, wherever we go, we're an influence on whoever is in our environment or in our community. And so that's a responsibility. I think it becomes a responsibility to be aware that the stronger or more involved, the stronger leadership role we play, or the more involved we're in the community or in organizations, that it's important for us to live our purpose, to live who we are and be honest with ourselves and convey that to.
Absolutely. You said purpose, you said honest. Those are two words that I believe go together. And
Can I add on to
please.
what she was saying, both of you? My world at Ridgeway Business Center is rather small. It's this floor. And everything you just said is so true. One of the roles I have here is listening to the needs of my clients, everybody that comes up here. And my Rolodex is going off in my head, and I'm thinking, oh, I just met so-and-so, or I know so-and-so over there, and I make that connection. There's nothing in there for me, but I've put them together, and it's, in my world, it's so interesting to see how everything starts happening, and these people start doing business together, and that I had a little role in seeing all this come together. And maybe I was a little influence on
as
somebody.
the connector, as the influencer. That's a great point. One of the things, as I was blogging, attempting to blog the other day, I wrote a quote that says, "The strength of business is generated by the team of experts that surround the visionary position of the founder. I speak to that personally. As the founder of Business Over Coffee International, we've seen a lot of people come and go on our team, and while they were here, they were fabulous. And where they are now, they're probably fabulous. They were influencers at a time. So there's a time and a season. I go back to my biblical roots, of course. There is a time and a season for everything, a time to dance, a time to cry, all of this. Let's talk about how you can influence where you are at that moment in time, and then you may be somewhere else at another point in your life as an influencer.
Boy, that's a big subject, but let me just start with, referring back to when I lived by default and off purpose versus on purpose. To be present with where you are. And as an influencer, if I'm trying to attract someone into my world that's like-minded, not necessarily thinks exactly like I do, but from a values point of view.
Absolutely.
From
The foundation.
Right, integrity. Yes. Then I determine, well, what do I want to accomplish for myself? What do I want to accomplish for them, for the organization? If I happen to be the convener or the influencer, I want to understand what's in it for Virginia, what's in it for Anita, what's in it for you, so that it's a win-win. Sure. And in terms of people coming and going, I mean, if you can give 100% while you're there, you've heard me say this to you before, give me a project, give me a one-shot deal that I can do, but please don't be disappointed that I can't be here every single week because I have other obligations.
Yes.
So to manage the expectations so that nobody feels let down, to say, I'd rather disappoint you by saying no on the front end than have to drop the ball on the back end because I've got so much going on. And to know that as an influencer, as a leader, that people are going to come and go, and how do you manage that? I've heard you say, well, we've both said this, to bless it and release it, and know that you blessed them when they came in, and you need to bless them when they leave.
Going out. Now, one of the things that's really important to me in my personal life that I have learned is that when you enter right. When you leave, you should leave right. So exit the way you entered is something that I really try to live by. And another point that Shelley has really brought to my life, Virginia, is to be able to renegotiate. If you and I have agreed to meet at a certain time and you have a situation with staff or something like that, you can call me and we can renegotiate. If I have a situation, we can renegotiate and say, okay, instead of meeting on Tuesday, we meet on Friday. But rather than just not showing up or not communicating. So tell us some experiences you've had in that.
Communication and flexibility is a vital part of what we have to do. Life changes day to day. And like we have often had set meetings and often have had to change, but we communicate with each other so each of us know what the other one's doing. It amazes me how often people do not communicate and they just don't show up, they don't tell you that they're not going to do something, they just don't do that, and everybody's let down, everybody's disappointed, but just communicating, listen, this happened to me this morning. Is there any way we can be flexible and change? Most people are happy to work with you and work around that. You didn't hurt anybody's feelings. You regroup, you back up, rethink, move on.
Yes. Back up and punt. That's one of the things I like to use. One of the things that I listed when I was talking about the influencers is I believe personally that in order to be an influencer that you must promote the other guy.
That's true.
By doing that, number one, it creates a win-win. Anita, I'm going to go to you with this because with mapmomentum.com, in your defining statement or your tagline, I don't remember which, you talk about creating a win-win. Tell us how you go about doing that as an influencer.
Well, I think a strategy for a lot of businesses and for professional people is to look at how both sides can win. And sometimes there's even a triple win, triple bottom line win. Like for instance, in Mary Singer's business with sustainability issues and solutions that,
Sure.
that her company addresses. I would segue also back to some research that I've done for investigating successful startups or successful companies, because I look at research and look at successful companies and then what other experts look for in terms of what they define as success, and maybe even investors, what types of
Sure.
and what elements. And part of that, one of the elements, which I think ties into your discussion about influencers, is a business that has co-founders, people who buy into that concept.
Sure.
Those companies have a higher probability of sustaining their business model because it's more than just one person's idea.
Sure.
And the win-win principle may be that you individually can be successful, I individually can be successful. But when the two of us or the four of us are more successful than each of us individually,
Right.
then that's a win-win. And so that's the definition of synergy that
Yes.
you're looking for in your team, whether it's a top leadership team or co-founders or people who nobody lives on an island. You know, you've got to have
Right.
those connections to be successful. So
Each one of you, if you were in a situation and you were before a large group of people who are employees for, let's say, FedEx, and you're teaching them how to become an influencer through your success. I'm going to start with Shelley. I would like you to tell us in a nugget what you would say to those individuals.
First of all, we have to be able to lead ourselves authentically. We need to be honest with ourselves and strip away all of the fluff, if you will.
Sure.
And so self-honesty, self-awareness, people get it if you're blowing smoke.
Absolutely.
And so if you can't be honest with yourself,
Right.
and you can't be an influencer and you can't lead
true.
effectively. And people are watching what we're doing more than they're listening to what we're saying.
Very true. Because of the complicated relationship, people were watching. That's very true.
And so bottom line, if you come back to integrity, which of course is my whole foundation here, what you do and what you say has to sync up. As Deborah likes to say, if your eyes are saying one thing and your mouth is saying something else, you know, it's a mixed message.
Right.
So,
That's very true. We did talk about integrity a lot today, and what I'm hearing from this panel is that becoming an influencer out of success, the foundation would be built on integrity. That's what I'm taking away from this. So will you give us, as an expert, integritybasedcommunications.com, will you give us the definition of integrity based on your truth?
well, integrity is wholeness, and
Yes.
integrity is in alignment. My favorite quote, in order to become the person you wish to become, you must first think, walk, talk, and act as if you already are that person.
Yes, I believe that.
So to put your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your attitudes all together in alignment is
Sure.
integrity for me. And that's strength. That's a foundation that we can all build upon.
Absolutely. So wholeness would be considered physical, mental, spiritual, financial,
Right.
emotionally. I mean, you've got 5 different segments there that we should really try to have in balance with one another. I know you talk a lot about balance, so I love that. That's a whole different segment here. Nita, you're in front of FedEx team. You're doing a team building seminar. Tell us how you would encourage each one of those team members to become influencers.
I would say, if you haven't read the book Good to Great, go read it. And in it, it talks about the sweet spot. What's your passion? Match your passion with what you really do well and can strive to be the best in the world at. And then who is going to pay you for that? And that might mean pay in terms of respect. Somebody might pay respect to you for that, or in dollars.
And Virginia, we have 10 seconds. Can you give us a nugget?
I'll build off of Shelley. Being true to yourself, absolutely. Being confident in what you're doing and what you're saying. you can then take that to somebody else, intentionally or not intentionally. It's just innate. It just becomes a part of you. And because you live into it, you are then able to share it with others, whether you realize you're doing it or not.
I like the word share. Thank you so much for sharing with us today at Business Over Coffee International. We are here with this panel of influencers, and I thank you all for joining us today. Nita Black, mapmomentum.com, Shelley Baur, integritybasedcommunications.com right here. Make sure you get the book. Virginia Rowland of ridgewaybusinesscenter.com right here in Memphis, Tennessee. If you are local to the area, check it out. We work with professionals who want to optimize their business through three things: social media, educational exchange, and networking events. We are bringing everyone together with 4 words: connections, collaborations, exposure, and business. My name is Sherry Henley, founder of Business Over Coffee International. You can find me at sherryhenley.com. Thank you so much for sharing, and don't forget, bring everyone together.